Austin Center for Spiritual Living presents Freedom is an Inside Job, a talk given by Reverend Dr. Richard Imprussia,
I'm a patriot. I love this country. You can probably tell I'm a patriot. You see my tie with the stars and stripes, and see my flag? I wore the big one today. I have some smaller ones, but today I wore the big one because I want to show off that I'm an American and show off the fact that I am pleased to be an American. I love this country. I love what we stand for, and I love to speak to that on occasions. Now, I love what we represent as a country because it's basic ideas of our founders, the ideas that they brought to us that established this country and what we represent in the world. Never before was there a nation that brought to the world a collection of ideas that were the result of all kinds of inner fighting, conflict, compromising, confrontation. You don't know. Most people don't even begin to be aware of what went on back there in and around Philadelphia at the time that they were coming up with what has come to be known as the documents, the primary documents of the United States of America. But they settled on an idea. And I love that. There's a lot I love about our country. I revere our founders. I revere the ideas that they brought to us. I love the ability to be able to stand up before you and criticize our president, our Congress, the past presidents or whatever, and know that that's my right. And to equally be criticized back by some of you who may not hold my particular viewpoint. Now, I was told, I said, what are you going to do? Or I was asked, what are you going to do for music on Sunday morning? And I said, well, we'll probably do some patriotic music. Do you think that that's wise? Can you imagine? But there are those, and probably maybe some of those among you who would say, wow, we shouldn't be so out with being Americans. Well, I'm an American, folks. I'm pleased to be American, and if you don't like it, we'll go, but wait until after the offering. I love our ability to be able to stand up and state what it is that we think about. I love that we can differ with each other and not worry that somebody is going to knock on our door in the middle of the night and cart us off someplace. I love the fact that I'm free to be able to explore the options of my own life. And not every place can do that. But we have that potential here. Do we make mistakes? Oh boy, have we made mistakes. But I'll tell you, I don't have much patience with the kind of a person who complains about this country and doesn't vote. If you're not going to vote, keep your mouth shut. I love the practicality of the United States of America. And a lot of people saying, oh, you're idealizing this country. I remember talking to a woman one time and I said, you know, this is the greatest country in the world. And she said, how can you say that with what's going on over there in Iraq and what's going on over here and over there? I said, well, it's the greatest country in the world. I said, the greatest country in the world because you can talk about how bad it is that we're over there doing things that maybe we shouldn't have done. A lot of places you wouldn't be able to do that. Well, where is it? Better place for you? She said, well, I don't know. I suppose the UK. I've lived in the UK for a long period of time, and I really like it. And I said, I love it. If there was any other place that I would live but the United States, it would be in the UK. But I'll tell you, I don't want to be over there in the middle of their economy right now. Anyway, I could go on and I could talk about Greece and I can talk about what's going on in Portugal and, all of this stuff. We're in a pretty great place, but we have the freedom to be able to look at it and look at it with fresh, new eyes. And that's what I'm proud of. We're a very, very practical group of people. And it just occurs to me, that's what I like about being a Texan. You know, I've been here 9 years now. Next Sunday will be my 9th year anniversary. And in that time, I have become transformed. I'm a Texan. And you know what I like about Texas? The people are tough. They stand out. They say who they are. They know where they're going. They will take a stand on things. And they think they're going to win. And that's what I like about America. We think we're going to win, and we always work toward that end. Not so much the compromise, and yet we're willing to compromise. Now, I know I'm kind of rambling around here, but there's a little saying that appears in a book that I have by a Chippewa Native American teacher by the name of Sun Bear. And in this book, you open it to this particular page. I don't remember the name of the book. It's buried in one of my boxes. And you see a picture of Sun Bear, and I've met this man, sitting, looking out of the page at you. And the caption under it is, I am not interested in hearing about any of your philosophy unless it can grow corn. Isn't that neat? And that's what I like about Americans. And if he's not an American, I don't know who is an American. I'm not interested, on the other hand, in talking to a lot of people that are going to gritch, gripe, moan, and complain about things that are not going to do anything about it and aren't going to get out and vote. And yet, I must say that I have my own concerns. And I have my reservations. I've seen where we have done things as a nation that I would just as soon are not having done. I've seen where we have had legislation that I think has been ruinous to our country. You know, one of our great heroes as a president was Woodrow Wilson, and it turned out he ended up being or acting like one of the worst racists that we ever have, despite all the wonderful things he said. And yet the wonderful things that he did to bring about a sense of the world community coming together under the League of Nations. But a lot of mistakes were made, and a lot of mistakes were made because of political pressures and the yielding and the compromise around those political pressures that compromise the very values that we have. So as much as I love this country, I do have my concerns about how accountable we are to the principles that we espouse. And just as important, how responsible we are for those principles. So we ask ourselves, what are the principles? Well, I happen to have a little book here. It's not a very big book, but it's the basis of what this whole country is about. It happens to be entitled, you may have heard of this, it has been a bestseller. It's called The Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. Now, that's only a few pages, and then the whole rest of it is the Constitution of the United States of America, plus amendments. But I want to read a couple of things out of the Declaration to you. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to this separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then it goes on to discuss the reasons for this separation from the England of King George and some of the basis for those reasons. And finally comes to near the end of the Declaration where it says this: We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world, God, for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. And then here's the clincher for me, the very last sentence in this. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Folks, these guys, there were 56 men who signed this. I'm sure there were a great many other women that had their input into it also. It was a different culture at that time. They put everything on the line. They laid it all out there. Their lives, their fortunes, and their honor. Now, their lives and their fortunes, this is all what was in the material realm. But their honor was something much deeper. And this is what I want to talk a little bit about. The distinction between that which was outside of them, that they were willing to pledge, even their lives, and that which was inside of them, that they were not willing to compromise in any way. They laid it on the line. Everything of value to them, outside of them, for the truth of what lie or lay within them. You see, in support of the principles that they really believed in. And this is the gift that we were given by our forefathers. This is the gift that is the accumulation of the ages, ideas that were brought to this particular point when this incredible group of people seemed to come together and there was a resonance. There was something special that happened. And it doesn't happen very often, at least according to my observations of the historical records that I have read. But it happened here, and it happened at a time, and it came together, and it came together against incredible odds because there was so much contention. And yet it came together, and they were able to defeat the greatest military force in the world in support of these principles. It's their gift to us, and it's our responsibility to foster the expansion of those ideas. And there are times when we get off track, and there are times when we see that we're badly off track. There are times when we look at it and say, are we going to survive as a nation in the way that we've always been, or are we going to degenerate into something that doesn't look at all like what we have seen before? And I want to give you an example of a person who was very, very concerned about this just following the Second World War. Back in 1949, Archibald MacLeish, one of the great American poets and authors, some of you may remember him. He died in 1982 at the age of 90. Archibald MacLeish, in 1949, wrote an article for the Atlantic Monthly. And in it he was talking about an orientation that seemed to, an idea, an orientation, a bias, a limitation as he saw it among people in the leadership of our country relative to our relationship to the Soviet Union. It was primarily the nation with which we had the most conflict at the time. And so he wrote this whole article on that theme. And he was not very encouraging about the article. 31 years later, he was asked by the Atlantic Monthly to address that article in another article. And he did, and he said, after looking it over and thinking about it, nothing has changed. We are still in the same position relative to Russia, the Soviet Union at the time. And he wrote this. And I do this because I want to demonstrate to you or illustrate to you that while at this time it appeared as though we were stalemated in the world and maybe we were on our way out, he saw, this is how he saw it. And then we can look at it the way it is now. He said, resistance, remember, he's talking about the way it was back just after World War II, and nothing has changed as of 1980. Resistance to the Russians became an end and object itself. When senators, United States senators, urging recognition and aid for Franco, some of you remember Generalissimo Franco, the dictator of Spain, a fascist, urging recognition of Franco, argued that the enemy of everything we have ever stood for deserved our friendship because he had fought the communists in Russia. They said, in effect, that what we believed in is nothing, but what we hate is the gateway to our minds. Now, what I want to point out is where we are today with this. Just look at what's happened. This was 1980 when he wrote that. By 1989, it was clear that Russia, the Soviet Union, was collapsing and Russia was opening up, that Eastern Europe was moving into a free expression, that the wall was coming down. We have an entirely different world today. Yes, we have problems. Look at the things in the Middle East, but look at the progress that's being made. And just look at what's happening, what they refer to as the Arab Spring, going on over there now, a new life, a new season for them as a result of all of the activities that are going on, moving toward a more free culture. So things change. Why do they change? Because it's in the heart of every one of us to express the freedom of our very nature. That's why they change. They have to change. What does this have to do with 4th of July? It has a lot to do with it, because I personally think that this nation was the spark. This nation was the light that projected into the world environment itself a picture of the kind of possibilities that were opened to everybody. A lot of people say, oh yes, but the Greeks got started with democracy way, way back. Read your Greek history. They had a kind of democracy, but it was for this group of people and not anybody else. And that's the difference. What we have fostered is a freedom for everybody. And why? Because it's what's in our soul. It's what is our nature. And we've got to be very, very careful that we don't get stuck in an idea. I love the comment by Santana, the great philosopher Santana, not the musician, where he says, fanaticism consists in redoubling your effort when you've forgotten the aim. Have any of you ever found yourself doing that kind of thing? So the point is this: what does all this mean to us and to our freedom that I'm talking about here? When we react to other people's purposes with resistance, we may very well be giving up our own self-determination, our leadership, our freedom. So often our reaction out of resistance moves in a direction to inhibit the freedom of somebody else. Do you see how that can work? And that which I feared has come upon me, as Job said. So we fear, we react. The reaction that we get is a similar kind of a behavior as we are projecting out there, and it's come upon us. We may find ourselves giving up the very freedoms that we hold close to us. The free thinkers of the world have always treasured, they have cherished themselves to be beginners and changers and creators and doers and challengers. They have purpose, they have principles of their own that they conceive of as the basis for making the changes in the world that's going to be better for everybody. You cannot possibly be real to yourself if you're motivated or you are manipulated by some external purposes. You see, this will never lead to a full expression of the freedom and the spontaneity of your own soul. Total creativity expresses from something within you. Total freedom can only come from the depths of your own soul. And it can only be sustained by your own purposeful involvement in life. It's not a reactionary thing. It's a spontaneous kind of thing. Real freedom is living fully. Real freedom is knowing who you are. And no one can do that for you. Freedom truly is an inside job. And it's up to you to become all that you possibly can be. Ernest Holmes, in his book, speaks about freedom, and I want to end with this morning. In the glossary of this textbook, he says this: real freedom means that you are created in the image of perfection, in the image of God, and left alone, allowed to make the discovery for yourself. Freedom of will means the ability to do and to say and to think as one wishes, to express as one personally desires, consistent with the highest good of all concerned. And then he goes on and he says this: the understanding of the truth. And what is the truth he's talking about? The truth that you're made in the image of that which made you. The understanding of the truth, the infinite principle, is your emancipator. Let's have a little prayer, shall we? So as we quiet ourselves, allow ourselves to come to center in this place of peace and serenity, recognizing that it's all love. God is love, and God is all there is. So all there is love. Life exists in this field of love, this unlimited, boundless field of love. And intrinsic within all of that is harmony and balance and joy and goodness, creativity and intelligence, abundance, and the expression of all that resides within every element of this allness. I am part of that. All that it is, I am. I am not all of it, but all I am is it, expressing as me. This is what it means to be made in God's image. And as I realize this, I know that my life is imbued with all of these characteristics of the infinite, of the all in all. All of these godly attributes are mine. So now I speak this word for everybody here in this congregation. knowing that these truths permeate the consciousness of everyone here and everyone everywhere. And I declare that there's a complete openness and receptivity to receiving the insights of these truths. That the one harmony, the one balance, the one order and symmetry that characterizes the universe is what characterizes each one. And it is in the realization of that that we see the healing of everything, anything that is unlike that perfect balance, that perfect harmony, order, and symmetry. Take a moment now in the silence to articulate to yourself in your own mind the one thing that is most important to you at this time, for which you would like to see total, harmonious resolution of. And now tell yourself in your own way, I accept the harmony and balance of the universe right at the center of this thing. And know whatever the issue is, however you phrase that, to be resolved. And I, Richard Imprescia, do accept that it is done. I am grateful that it's so. I rejoice that it's so. I know that it is so. And together we can declare, and so it is.